Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm excited and happy today because I have a new long-range plane in to review for you guys. And the cool thing about this one is that the E-DO Cessna Twin, it's out there on Banggood's website, but I haven't really seen anyone else flying it. I don't know anyone else with this plane. It is around the $250 price point. I think if you use the coupon, you can get it down to around 220 or so. That's with the electronics, the landing gear. The servos are pre-installed on here, and pretty much all you have to do is set up the wiring inside, put up a couple of the push rods in the very back where the tail is, set up the elevator and the rudder, and plug in your receiver, and you're pretty much ready to go fly this thing. So for me, I took about 3 to 4 hours to get it set up exactly the way I wanted it for this demo. I only set it up for FPV for this review. I did not put a flight controller in it yet, but after flying it, just for the basics, flying it in line of sight, and then FPV afterwards with my GoPro and my 360 camera on top, it will carry a GoPro all day and the 360 camera, no problem. It carries a ton of cargo. You can get a really big battery in this one, in and upwards of, I would say a 10,000 milliamp would comfortably fit in the hull of this plane underneath. The hatch is on the bottom, and there's one in the very back as well to be able to get to all of your extra servos in the back for your rudder and your elevator. But the cool thing about this is that I was able to build this up within a day and a half and have this thing out and flying for my first demo for you guys. So I'm pretty happy that I could do that, because there's honestly I don't think there's any other English review on this plane out there on YouTube right now. So this is kind of a one-of-a-kind review out there for the E-DO Cessna, and I'm really happy to take you guys out and show you some GoPro footage, some line of sight flying with it, some crashes, some durability tests, and some 360 video. So I did it all for you guys, and I hope you appreciate my efforts. So let's go ahead and go outside now, and let's do some flying with the E-DO Cessna, and we'll come back into the studio and I'll give you my final thoughts and impressions on this plane. Here we go. So what does this plane have? Well, let's go over it real quick. We have a 59-inch wingspan on here, and it does sit pretty high up off the ground, which I like. I like the stance of this plane a lot. It has a 44.8-inch fuselage, so it is a longer style fuselage, which I like. It adds a lot of stability, and a tail dragger setup up here with that extra wide landing gear. You have tons of space up front for FPV or head tracking, or your GoPro if you'd like to put it up front. You can also run your FPV VTX out the side. I usually like to keep mine on the outside for cooling. And we have a 2212 1400 kV motor. We have two of those running this power system with an 8x4 included prop, but I upgraded mine to the APC 9x4.5. And we have extra wide landing gear. I had no problem taking off out of the grass with these 3-inch lightweight tires, and they're nice because they're lightweight foam, not those heavy Dubro ones. And it has a lock nut on the inside. These are not going to come off. And you have the tail wheel hooked up to your servo in the back right there for your rudder. You have dual push rod elevator, which is kind of nice going into the single 12-gram servos that are pre-installed. So all you have to do is hook up the linkage there and you're good to go. We also have two 30-amp Hobbywing ESCs running the power system up to 3 to 4S. And we have pre-installed 9-gram servos and linkage. All you have to do is pretty much hook them up to the servo horns and you're pretty much ready to go there. You also have the option to run up to something like a 4S 10,000 milliamp. This is a 4S 5000 that I have in there right now. You have also a rear hatch option for servo access, which is really nice, makes setting things up just a little bit easier. But great looking plane. Let's do some flying. So we're gonna get out here. I'm gonna plug this in. I'm gonna show you how it takes off the ground here. I'm just gonna go ahead and take off and get it up in the air. And I gotta say, that back elevator, it needed a little bit of expo because it moves really nice. You can tell that those rear servos work really differently than the smaller 9-gram servos on the ailerons. You have a really nice authority on the tail, so it might be a little bit sensitive. If you're a new pilot, dumb it down with probably about 25 to 35% expo on the elevator and the rudder. You have a nice smooth straight ahead flying plane, but really easy to land, taxi around. So I'm excited that the line of sight flight came out perfect. Now we can put it up in the air with the GoPro and do a little 360 camera action for you as well. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get it up with the Hero 7 on there with Hypersmooth. If you have not put a Hero 7 with Hypersmooth on a fixed wing yet, please do it, because this is the kind of video that you can get. It is actually pretty good. Anything older than a 2019 action cam without 3-axis stabilization really looks different now when I use a cheaper camera without the 3-axis electronic stabilization. It just looks very 2015 to me. But what's cool about the Cessna Twin is that, check this out, we can get in there really, really low and we can fly really, really slow. This is another one of those planes that I could just get in there and I could cut way back on the throttle. As far as a long-range FPV cruiser, if you're up a couple hundred feet up and you're backing off that throttle and you're trying to find that minimum amount of throttle to keep the nose up and conserve battery, I was down to about 35% throttle right here. The wing is really efficient with the twin motor setup, and you're going to get a long flight time of around 15 minutes with that 4S 5000 battery. If you don't put a GoPro on there, you could probably get a little bit longer flight time. Now also, your conditions are going to vary. If you have a windier day, it's going to be a little less flight time if you're fighting a headwind, so keep that in mind when you're doing those long flights. Now let's go ahead and put the 360 camera on there too. Let me give you that perspective. If you like 360 cameras, please do subscribe to my channel, because I use this 360 camera all the time now to give you guys kind of a new perspective. But really, it's a neat view, and you can kind of see a little bit of the characteristics of the plane. It does turn really nice and smooth. And what I think is really cool about it is that it's really a versatile plane. I like the way it looks scale wise. I really like this twin engine setup on here. Someone recently said they'd never seen a twin engine Cessna, but actually they do exist. They are out there in full scale aircraft. FedEx is commissioning probably about 50 or 60 of them new coming up in 2020 for cargo operations. So a twin motor setup is not a bad choice for some distance flying and being able to carry much heavier cargo, especially if you want to put that much larger 10,000 milliamp battery in here. You might even be able to get over 20 minutes flight time with this twin engine setup. And you have a super low KV on here as well, so the low KV is going to help you go even further. And that's really, honestly, that's what you want for a fixed wing airplane that you want the most flight time on. The lower the KV I can get away with, the better. I'm going to make a circle back around and testing out that landing gear again. Enjoying some touch and goes with this plane because it's so wide with 3-inch tires. I never had this plane nose over, so that's good news for you guys. I was almost hit myself right there. Definitely don't want to come in contact with an APC prop. They are super sharp nylon props. They will cut you good. But back up in the air, the touch and goes are a lot of fun. Tail dragger is absolutely my favorite. I don't know what kind of landing gear you guys like on your RC airplanes, but man, I love a tail dragger. It's kind of the old school airplane setup. One of the original setups before the trike gear came along. World War II fighters, World War I. Now coming back in. And I experienced some wind shear coming up right here. It's really strange. Off that little hill right there, it was tumbling 10 to 15 mile an hour, maybe even a 20 mile an hour wind. And then that was another touch and go. But I'm going to come back around now and check this out. Every bit of lift was taken away from the airplane all at once, and that's what happens to full-scale aircraft sometimes coming in for a landing. So it can be kind of scary, but no damage done. Really, really nice flying plane. I like this one a whole lot. All right, guys, welcome back from the crashes and the flying. So what was your first impression of this plane? My first impression was that it was a pretty good scale. It's not as big as my Skyhunter, my full-size 1800 millimeter Skyhunter. That is a massive plane. I've had it sitting over here to my right for several years now, and that one is going to get all the bells and whistles put on it. And but the only thing about that one is that it is so big that I don't take it out all the time. This one is big, but it's not big enough that I can't take it and put it, you know, in my van and take it out. And I just bought a huge Sprinter van, so I could pretty much put my Skyhunter in there now without taking the wing off. But that was the whole point of getting a Sprinter van, right? So you can put any of your hobby planes in there, yeah. But this one you could comfortably put in the back seat of a car. and still have that big plane capability. And that's really what this one is all about. It's more portable than something huge like a Skyhunter. Of course, you're going to get a much longer flight time because you can carry a lot larger size, like a 4S 20,000 milliamp inside the Skyhunter or something like that, something gigantic, 18,000. The biggest thing you're probably going to get in this one is like a 4S 10,000 milliamp, maybe a 12,000 if you squeeze it in. But it has all the stuff included in here to, like the foam padding, to be able to secure your large battery in the front, and it's not hard to get the CG right. I think that the CG is about 2.5 inches behind the leading edge of this plane, so it's not marked on here. It's one of those kits where they kind of, you have to figure it out for yourself type of thing. So you would rather be nose heavy than tail heavy. Just keep that in mind when you're setting this plane up. And the price point on this plane is around that sort of long range plane price. It is around the $250 mark, and I believe you can get the price down as well if I can get you guys a coupon, or you can check out my spreadsheet down below and you can find one there. But let's go ahead and talk about my impressions as far as flying. I think that it's very stable up in the air. I love the climb out that it has with the twin engines on board, and I'm kind of obsessed with twins right now. I also want to build another plane coming up. It's the My Twin Dream. Hopefully I can get that one on the channel for you guys some point. And the beloved Nimbus. I've wanted the Nimbus for years. Power out. Landing was also great because the landing gear and the wheels, they're 3-inch tires, and they're the ultralight foam tires. They're not the really heavy Dubro style tires that a lot of the gas planes have. These are nice and light, and they actually work great with the tail dragger setup, and it is a steerable tail wheel on the back that's kind of hooked up into your rudder. So very steerable, and it will land in the grass no problem. So as far as your durability, I did have a weird wind shear happen when I was coming in for a landing, and you guys saw that 360 video where the plane just did this straight over on itself, and it was a very strange phenomenon, and I'd never seen it happen like that before in RC. It happens in real life when people are coming in for a landing, and people die when this happens. The plane just kind of noses in. All of a sudden you lose all lift, and it's a pretty scary thing. But it was kind of interesting to see it happen to an RC plane, because the day that I was flying it, it was really, really windy, and there's not any dehedral on this plane right here. So there's no extra bit of forgiveness when you're coming into land. It also has optional flap spots back here, so if you want to slow it down a little bit on those approaches, you can do that. But I find that I was able to kind of crab into the wind with this plane. Even that means like turning the plane at an angle, slowing it down that much that you almost come to like a 0 type of airspeed. So that it was that windy the day that I was flying it for you guys. And the GoPro footage that you're going to bring home with it is going to be very, very nice. But the durability factor, I'm going to say that's about a 4.2 out of 5. You can break stuff on it. The extra struts on here do help. It has struts underneath both wings right here. And this is kind of a foam strut in disguise. It is a metal bar that goes from top to bottom, and there's metal posts sticking out of the wing here, and there's one down here. So these are embedded into the fuselage and up here through the wing. So kind of a more sturdy type of strut than I've seen on some other previous Cessnas, because these are usually the first thing to break on a lot of Cessnas. Kind of annoying, but plenty of room for adding FPV gear on there, a flight controller, or anything else you want to do with this plane, honestly. So very durable. It didn't have any damage on that cartwheel. It's still in one piece. I think the landing gear might have bent a little bit, but they didn't snap off, which is great. For you long range guys, I'd probably remove those landing gears, and you guys already know that because we're trying to shed weight and get a little bit longer flight time. There's no real need to fly this plane long range with the landing gear on there. You're just going to belly land this plane. The next thing is that my overall score is going to have to be about a 4 point, I would say about a 4.6. It is higher. It's not a bad plane. I think it could probably use a little bit better servos, is one of the reasons that I kind of demoted it a little bit, but it does have a rather large 12-gram servos in the rear you can tell how nice the elevator is when you start to play around with your sticks for the first time. It's very, very nice, like a large scale plane servo. So I think the ones on the wings could probably be metal. If you're going to fly this long range, I'd probably upgrade those servos to metal gear servos, and you should be good to go. But everything else on the plane checked out, and I had a lot of fun with it. So thanks for watching my review, guys. I'm Justin Davis. Take care, and if you like long range FPV and fixed wing in general, please do subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.